Okay, so we're about 2 weeks into the lifespan of the Switch 2, and I'm not sure about you guys, but Mario Kart World and upgrades to the Zelda games aren't really enough to carry me through to the next major release. So I've been doing what a lot of people have been doing and testing out the backwards compatibility. And for a quick review, I think it's really good and really effortless to get going. However, that has made me a little bit greedy, because for every game that gets a boost to visuals and frame rate, there are those that run better but look and feel the same. So this video is going to be a list of games that I would like to see get Switch 2 performance patches. Before we get into the games, be sure to like and subscribe for more Switch 2 and JRPG related content. Right, so game number one, it's an obvious one, Astral Chain. I think we can all agree that this should probably be top of the list when it comes to Nintendo's/Platinum's update list for Switch 2. Despite the obvious technical limitations of the Switch 1, this game is still a beloved fan favourite. And I think the only issues anybody have ever had with this game are the resolution in handheld mode especially, and the frame rate being locked at 30 frames per second. To give the Switch credit, it did run at a fairly locked 30 frames per second. Even in the tougher fights and more visually intensive moments, it rarely drops more than a few frames at a time. However, with the Switch 2, in my testing of the game, there haven't really been any true improvements. I mean, the near locked 30 is now a locked 30, which is better, but I think image quality is still a problem. A resolution boost and a frame rate lift to at least 60 frames per second. I'm not sure if we could push to the 120, although that would be amazing. But this overall improvement to an already amazing game could really see a second wind for this title going into the new generation. Next on the list is Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. When this game came out, I don't think anybody expected what we were going to get when you heard of a crossover between Atlus and the developers of Fire Emblem. You don't expect to get a JRPG centering around your rise through the J-pop world. However, despite not exactly being what anybody asked for, this game is surprisingly well put together. Between the Switch version and the Switch 2 version that I've been testing out, there doesn't seem to be much of a difference at all, much like with Astral Chain. If this was to get a Switch 2 update, the main thing I would be focused on is, can we get sharper textures and a higher resolution, because it's been quite a few years and it is beginning to show its age quite a bit. I mean, I think the anime style does cover it up a decent amount, but it really does look like a Wii U game. A frame rate patch would be nice for this game, but because it's a turn-based JRPG, it's not as necessary, I don't think. As it stands, the Switch 2 does have a slightly faster load time, but I think again with a patch that could be improved further. Next up is Master Detective Archives Raincode. Ever since this game first released, I've been desperate to commit to a full playthrough. However, I unfortunately bought it on Switch 1. Now, the Switch had many very impressive ports to the system, but this is definitely not one of them. In fact, this game is actually the reason I wanted to make this video in the first place. The best word I can think of to describe the Switch 1 version of this game is crusty. The frame rate consistently dips and the image quality is pretty poor, and this is in docked mode. In handheld mode, it's basically unplayable for me. It feels a lot like that sort of Vaseline effect that happens in Xenoblade 2, just really unappealing to look at. As it stands, there is currently nothing about the Switch 2 version of this game that is anyway improved, other than maybe mild texture differences, and I think the load times are a tiny bit shorter. But until we get a proper patch from Spike Chunsoft, I think I'm going to have to wait to play this one a little while longer, which is a shame because I still think it looks pretty damn cool. Next up, we've got Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven. Like with Raincode, I think this game sort of suffers from that late cycle port syndrome. But whereas with Raincode, I almost find it near unplayable. With this game, I actually think, other than image quality, the actual gameplay is pretty fluid for the most part. There's a bit of pop-in every so often, but the actual moment-to-moment experience is mostly unaffected by the hardware of the Switch. So when it comes to a patch for the Switch 2 for this game, I would mainly want an improvement of the character models. I think that's where they sacrifice the most with the Switch 1's visuals. And all those low power hardware eccentricities, when they're presented to you on the Switch 2, they do just feel worse in general. So things like character models looking muddy or low quality textures just stand out in a way that just feels a lot worse than on Switch 1. I also noticed, this might have been patched already with that update that Switch 2 just had, but there's mild stuttering when you play this game on Switch 2 that I didn't see present in my Switch 1 gameplay. So just a small patch to bring it closer to the versions on the other more powerful consoles. And I think this game is almost a must-buy on Switch 2. Next up is The Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel 3 and 4. As far as the original ports go, I don't think that they were particularly outstanding in the first place, with the PS4 version and PC version of the game being by far the superior choice over the Switch 1 edition, where the PC version typically ran at 1080p 60 frames per second. The Switch 1 version in both docked and handheld mode only targets 30 frames per second at 720p, with the handheld mode looking slightly lower quality than in docked. Like with all the other games on this list, Cold Steel 3 and Cold Steel 4 are in desperate need for a performance patch for Switch 2. With the version we already have not being up to the same standard as the other ports, the longer time goes on, the worse these games are going to look and feel to play. And with the remake for Trails in the Sky FC coming out, now's as good a time as any to really boost the performance of these games in anticipation for newer players going forward. So before the last game on the list, I wanted to quick fire away a few more honourable mentions. The games that are flashing past the screen all suffer from a very common issue. Their handheld modes are dreadful. On the Switch 1, these games would typically drop frames commonly, and because of that, they had to overcompensate by ruining image quality through lowering the resolution, sometimes to as low as 480 or 360p. Which, while not optimal, it wasn't as noticeable on the Switch 1, but on Switch 2 with the bigger screen, it is a eyesore. So with this new hardware in 2025, I really think we could benefit greatly from patches to the portable modes for all of these games. And last, but certainly not least on this list of games I think need a Switch 2 update, SMT5/SMT5 Vengeance. Atlus took what was already one of the Switch's best JRPGs in terms of gameplay and made it one of the best JRPGs overall on the system when they re-released SMT5 with its Vengeance edition. The job Atlus did in bringing this game to the Switch originally and then the Switch with the re-release was nothing short of miracle port status. However, over the years, and especially after releasing on PC and PS5, we have all become aware of the potential that this game holds in terms of how good it could look and run with a more powerful system. So for this game in particular, a performance patch would be nice, but realistically, I would much prefer it if Atlus actually put in the work to do a full-on Switch 2 upgrade to bring it alongside the PS5 version as almost as good a way to play the game. Just don't be so greedy as to charge us a third time for this game, please. So that's it for my list of games that I think desperately need to be fixed and saved for Switch 2. Let me know in the comment section if you think I forgot any, or if there's any obvious ones you think I should take a look at going into the future. And remember to like and subscribe.